Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Akronist TV. I'm your host, Vanessa Michelle, and today we are joined with Debra Manteghi. She is from ProjectRISE, which is an educational program here within the area for the Akron public schools that helps youth who are experiencing homelessness pursue an education. She's the program director, and we're so happy to have her. How are you?
Thank you for having me here today.
Yes.
And I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes. No, we really appreciate you and what you do. So it's an honor, definitely.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about ProjectRISE and its services to the community.
Okay. Well, ProjectRISE was started back in 1991 in the Akron Public Schools. That is when they received their first demonstration grant. And that was a result of legislation that was passed in 1987, the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, Education for Homeless Children and Youth Programs.
Okay.
And under that was the educational component to help children and youth that were being displaced because of losing their housing and crossing district lines, crossing county lines and state lines. Legislators came together. It was a bipartisan legislative effort under Ronald Reagan, and hence the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. Grants were offered, and Akron applied in 1991, as I mentioned. I came to the program in 1998.
Okay.
My predecessors were Dr. Jeanette Sojourner and Dr. Fanny Brown. There were many changes through that particular time of when it was actually initiated and to as it began to develop, not only here in Akron but across the United States. These are, again, federally funded programs. Every school district is required to appoint a homeless education liaison, and states are offered funding for sub-grants, such as Akron has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because of the need that we have shown over the last, since it actually started, but I would say the numbers generally have increased through the years. And right now we are at close to 1,500, wow. And we've already surpassed what we served last school year. So I am estimating that we will probably reach somewhere around 800 children and youth in the Akron Public Schools district.
Right.
Now that includes children birthed to high school. That also includes children and youth that attend charter and community schools, and some cross districts.
Okay. So what is it that you guys, because I was able to see your website,
Yes.
So there are multiple services that you guys provide.
Yes.
And it's kind of interesting because even though you do focus on the student, there are still services that you provide that help out the whole family orientation. So could you kind of describe some of the services and things that you guys do for the students?
Yes. The focus is the child, youth,
Right.
experiencing homelessness. However, that child and youth exist in a family.
Mm-hmm.
And in federal programs, especially educational programs, there is a parent outreach involvement component. And there is such a component in the McKinney-Vento grant. So in order to provide stability to the child, we have to reach out to the parents. And I would describe our program on 3 different levels, or tiers, if you will. First would be the legal mandates. And to get into that very briefly, that's immediate enrollment without the usual records. This child can stay in school of origin. We can provide transportation back to the school of origin,
Okay.
as long as it's feasible.
Okay.
A waiver of some school fees, Title I services, expedited assessments, and that pretty much sums
Right.
up the legal mandates.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are educational enrichment areas that we work with too. We have after-school program at 10 of the 11 shelter sites we work with. We have arts and literacy programming. We have the theater programming. That's the PACT program.
Okay.
Performing Arts Can Teach. And that is funded through Akron Community Foundation.
Okay.
And that is one of the best programs that we
Right.
have, and I can explain that
Yeah,
to
I would
you
assume so.
later as we
Yeah.
go on. But we also have a Love and Learn Doll project, which is funded through Holy Trinity Lutheran Church.
Okay.
Space is provided by Holy United Church of Christ. You notice I'm listing all these
Mhm.
collaborators.
Right.
And we have field trips in the summer,
Oh, neat.
cultural, experiential-oriented field trips. We try to have at least 4 or 5. We sometimes are able to go out of county, and then we finish up at Stan Hewitt
Okay.
for our closing. We have a reading program, and we also have some math programming as well. We have to stay within the academic parameters of Akron Public Schools, but we also have to contextualize our approach because we have to meet the needs of our children and families where they are.
Right.
Then we have our social service component.
Yes.
And that would include like the Akron Resource Directory that we developed and the Akron Street Card. Both of those projects are projects that were developed and implemented by ProjectRISE.
Okay.
And now they're community-wide and used by most of the agencies, the organizations, many faith-based organizations that are helping those that are in need. We also have an intake process for our doubled-up families and our unaccompanied youth.
Okay.
And we do that in our office. And here is where we talk mostly with the parents. And we go through an intake process and we try to identify what their needs are. That can range all the way from getting, helping them with identifying resources they need, who to call for housing, if they need medical needs, utilities, mental health services. There's a whole variety of needs that we can help them locate.
Right.
And we send them a parent pack, I'll hold it up like this, that has all these things in there along with a letter
Oh, wow.
explaining their rights as under McKinney-Vento, and a brochure, and I don't see
Oh,
those.
resource directory.
Yeah, here's their A Parent's Guide to the Rights of Children and Youth Experiencing Homelessness. So that helps, so they're aware that there are certain things that will help them. For instance, if they don't have immunization records, the schools cannot keep them out.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean we don't need to get those records, we do. But they can't keep them out of school because of that. So that falls under the legal mandate of immediate enrollment. But we also have a program, an enrichment program called Parent Rising. And we usually hold 3, possibly 4 events during the school year. We have a harvest dinner, a soul food dinner, a spring celebration, and some type of summer outing, or in our field trips,
Yeah.
maybe our Stan Hewitt one will be more family focused. But we always include our parents in what we do. They're always welcome to come to the after-school programs and also to the PACT programming. And that's where I find where so much can happen, because you have the parent and the child away from shelters or away from their situation for maybe a few hours, where they can be surrounded in live theater, dance, music, the performances like by Magical Theater, Weather Vane, the University of Akron. And some of the themes are themes they can relate to. And it can also help them to process what they're going through. And that goes back to like brain-based research, because in order for children and adults to learn, they have to feel safe and they have to feel secure and comfortable.
Yeah.
If they feel threatened or their needs are not met or they're worried about where they're going to go, it really decreases their ability to access higher learning. So these types of events, the field trips, the after-school program, all that we do, they're geared to help them not only make sure that we're getting in our academics, but to help them to be able to learn, to open up those recesses for them. And that includes the parents as well. And the parents are welcome to come in and participate with anything we do. So
Yeah. And so how do you see, kind of as they're going through the program, how do you see the parents and also the students just growing? Like, what does that kind of look like as they're, experiencing their hardship, but at the same time being able to access a program like this?
I think it's what I see and what I think it's vital, because if we were not there, there is no other program that is specifically targeted towards the child and youth experiencing homelessness, and especially in the educational realm, because that is their way out. That is where they are going to gain stability and the keys to their future. So it's very important to keep them stable in school and connected, and we work with the principals, the guidance counselors, the enrollment staff, the psychologists, some of the in-school counseling agencies as well, and our secretaries and support staff. So the network has grown considerably to keep these children and youth as stable as possible.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really appreciate about what you guys did was that you're not only looking at, the educational aspect, but also all of those aspects, because essentially it's a domino effect that if one need isn't being met, there's something else that needs to be met as well. So that's something that I can definitely appreciate that you guys do. It's really exciting.
Yes, and I think it can be a model intervention of sorts, because it is all there. Now, you asked me, do you see the changes? And I would say for the most part, yes. I will say that many of our families are experiencing greater hardship than what I've seen in the past. And I do think there is a trend for that right now with in our poverty and homelessness. And those in poverty are getting pushed further into homelessness. The economy may be making strides, but it's not necessarily benefiting those that are, our working class families and our poor that are trying to keep jobs and raise their families. I also think the family structure has changed, and in a way where, again, the stability is not always there when there's difficulties. So the composition is going to look like a younger mother with 2 children, and there's more minorities involved in the demographics. So again, you have to contextualize your programming, and you can't just look at the academics. When you're in this type of work, you have to see what's not working. So it's also a sociological study of sorts, because although, again, our main goal is to increase their academic accomplishments and well-being and success in school, many things have to happen for that to take place.
Yeah, I think when it even for you guys, well, actually within your experience, when it comes to homelessness and seeing homelessness, I think there's like a general idea of what it is, but you're able to see it firsthand.
Yes.
What are some of the things that we kind of, when you're just looking from the outside in, that we kind of don't see when it comes to homelessness from, youth to even adulthood?
I think that you'd be surprised at how much they look just like you and me. First of all, and I think Akron does an exceptional job in the shelters. I think our school system has made extreme measures to help in that area as well, you know, to focus and provide that stability. It's harder. It's harder to bring people back in again, but we have to. We have to try to keep them with where we're going in the future, where we're going in the 21st century, with jobs, with technology.
Right.
We have to be able to make a pathway for them too, and hold on to them. Now, they have to make choices as well, and to get there. But I think the hardest thing is helping to understand where they're coming from. That many of them are surviving. Many of them have been exposed to violence, to sexual exploitation, to abuse, to drugs. There are higher rates of mental illness, not necessarily because they're homeless. I think mental health are issues across the board, but they don't
Right.
have access to resources as easily as someone on the higher end would. So, but it can drive people into, you know, it can affect their mental health.
Right.
And their health.
Right.
So I think when you look at the picture, you have to see these things, and you have to see how you can help. If we can help families just this much, to get this much ahead in things, and this much out of where they were, then I think we're doing what we're supposed to do. You have to be realistic.
Yeah.
But most importantly, we've got to keep those kids in school and giving them support. Everything we do supports that. Everything we do has to come back to that. We have to keep those kids on target so that they can become more self-sufficient and be better prepared, and not have to repeat the cycle of poverty and homelessness that their families may have been in.
Yeah.
We also don't want to lose opportunities of what they have to offer,
That's a good point.
and their talents and their capacities and their potential.
So for you, what has this experience been like? You've been on staff for
17 years.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's a long time.
It's a long
The
time.
time went quickly. And I sat and, you know, think about that and reflect on that, how fast that it did go. I feel like it was a calling, and
Wow.
I maybe
Yeah.
didn't realize it, but it was, and it matched my skill set. I'm a licensed social worker. I have my master's in education. I have undergraduate studies in family consumer sciences, so I feel like I was really,
Like,
you know,
raised and, you know,
right,
molded to do
handle this.
Yeah.
And I give a lot of credit to that background in creating the programs to address the problems, and to think of strategies to help in our program, like you know, Vygotsky social constructivism, and helping, you know, scaffolding and placing them with others, working side by side with the parents and the student. I think it's very important not to separate yourself from the children and the parents. That you
Right.
have to work hand in hand with them.
Okay. Yeah. So, with that being said, as a community, what can we do to help not just homelessness, not just with ProjectRISE and getting the word out about that, but also just as a community when it comes to homelessness and education and promoting those things? You know, what can we do?
Well, I think that we're all responsible for our children, our youth. They really and truly are our future.
Yeah.
And I think there's many things that we can all do. One is providing time, providing resources, providing funding, because we are a federally funded program, and the way the McKinney-Vento grant is set up, it promotes collaboration, identifying other resources. Even within the district, there's a Title I set aside. I'm under student services, so that helps with the immediate enrollment, with maybe some of the truancy issues or behavior problems. But there's several departments within the district that are closely tied. The legal department, community partnerships, I said student services, that's the department I'm under, special education. So, and career education. We're sort of a microcosm and trying to connect and relate to what's within the district. But then we must go out in the community as well and form partnerships with the faith-based organizations, and many of them have their vision into helping the poor. So, they're good partners with us. And many of the churches, First United Methodist, Holy Trinity Lutheran, Trinity United Church of Christ, Mount Lebanon, are just a few of the churches that have been just exemplary in their service. So you have to also look to other foundations and look for funding to help support these programs, because the McKinney-Vento grant basically is your operating grant. That's to perform the necessary duties. And that includes your instructional staff, the staff needed for the intake procedure, transportation, some supplies, some field trips, professional development. Like all of these other extra projects are funded through outside sources. So I think partly it's built in that way to get other people involved so that they can become aware too of homelessness, of how it impacts children, how we must all work together to try to address those needs. It's going to be a longer process to eradicate homelessness, but we still have to come forth and work on it.
Right. So it's a growing process. It's a
Yes,
journey.
it is. And there are several coalitions in place, alliances in place. I'm a part of the Continuum of Care with Akron City. So there's a lot of connections, a lot of legislations that are impacting our society and how we work with the homeless and the poor.
Okay. And if people want to get in contact with ProjectRISE to do those very things, getting involved and
Yes.
pushing the mission forward, how can they get involved?
They can call me.
Okay.
They can email me. I can be reached at 330-761-2969. My email is dmanteghi@akron.k12.oh.us. Now that's a mouthful.
Right.
You're better likely to call me. But
Okay. And the website?
and our website.
Okay.
Our
And what is that?
APS
Okay.
ProjectRISE. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. This is Akronists. I'm Bess Michelle. Thank you.